On the 24th of January 2008, cricket was sold for $723 million US. When the IPL chairman and commissioner Lalit Modi announced that to the world, the names and the owners of the 8 original IPL teams were included. Mumbai, of course it was Mumbai, became the most expensive team at nearly $112 million. Some of India's richest business tycoons, like Vijay Mallya and Mukesh Ambani, bought teams. But for the press, Modi led with the biggest Bollywood stars, Jarrod Khan and Preeti Zinta, as co-owners. England cricket has always been linked with random celebrities. Mick Jagger once did a project with Cricinfo to broadcast cricket in the 90s. But nowhere else in cricket had they ever weaponized the love famous people had for the game. And the IPL would become so big so quick that there were stories of Bollywood agents getting fired for not getting their stars into the ownership of teams. The base price for these sides had been $50 million each, so a total of $400 million was set to be made at the minimum. So they ended up making nearly twice that at the end of that auction. Never had cricket seen figures anything like this. At that point, buying something in cricket was cheap. Suddenly $100 million was being splurged on a concept. And of course, the IPL wasn't the first franchise tournament in cricket. It wasn't even the first one in India. Both of those were the ICL. But in many other ways, especially when it comes to cricket business, it started everything. There is no point having talent around you if you don't use it correctly. Every captain knows this, and it is the same of the sport of cricket as when you were trying to win Raid Shadow Legends, which sounds like a new cricket league if we're being honest. The difference is that instead of taking down arrogant openers or massive power hitters, you are fighting the Demon Lord and the Hydra. So if you want to use your leadership smarts from cricket in a new way, sign up to Raid Shadow Legends and participate in their Spring Hunt event where you can win some real life prizes such as gaming consoles, Amazon gift cards with a total value of $10,000 and a lot of other in-game prizes like legendary champions and more. All you've got to do is get Raid using the link in my description, enter in your Raid ID and join the competition at springhunt.polarium.com. But the heart of any game is its players, which is, again, a little bit like cricket. So Raid is launching its first ever community weeks. It is a super fun 14-day program giving away cool stuff as super hot legendary champion named Chronica Adelian. In case you don't know, she's the one who puts her enemies to sleep. To get her, all you've got to do is log in for 7 days between now and July the 8th. And the gifts, they don't end there. Use the link in my description or scan my QR code here on the screen and you will get a huge starter pack with an epic champion, Tyrell, and another starter pack after getting to level 25 that includes the epic Rector Druth. I like that name. Rector Druth should be a cricketer, right? And I'm already keeping stats on both of them in case I need to beat you, because you can actually play against me by finding my handle, The Good Jarrod. And after installing Raid via my link, make sure to use the promo code SPRINGHUNT24 to get silver and more. Who doesn't want silver? So click the link in the description and become the captain of your Raid Shadow League today. And let's take down those demon lords in the death overs. The IPL, as Lalit Modi imagined, was to be a marriage between Bollywood glitz and cricket, India's two favourite money spinners. And instead of being run by dour cricket administrators, he brought in IMG to look after it all. The idea is that it would be a mix of sport and entertainment. It was not in any way supposed to be like normal cricket. The IPL had taken a lot of inspiration from US sports leagues like the NFL, NBA, and MLB, but they also went with some very specific twists, like player recruitment. In US sports, players moving around in major professional leagues are selected through a draft system originally and then later free agency, and each player's salary is decided by which round of the draft they are picked in. And if you know anything about American sports, you know that the drafts themselves are major events, as are the free agent signings in American sport and also transfer day in football. For instance, the 2023 NBA draft had an average viewership of 3.7 million, which peaked at over 6 million during the first round. So the IPL could have gone down that same route, or even with no formal recruitment system at all, which would have been the teams just negotiating with players privately, similar to what happens with Premier League football and club cricket. But they went with an auction. Now that is a spectacle, and that's exactly what the IPL wanted. Remember, this wasn't just about cricket. This was about all-around entertainment. It had never been done before in the game, and there were, and to be fair, still are, a few grumblings about the idea of buying and selling players like livestock. But it worked. Here was another major event to add to the whole IPL experiences, one with its own narratives and arcs. Splitting the auctions up into Mega and Mini also gave it another twist. And despite the auction's success, it's actually one of the few things the IPL did very well that other franchise tournaments weren't that excited about. In fact, the only other leagues that have auctions at the moment are pretty closely related to the IPL, the WPL and the SA20, with the Lanka Premier League as well. But 17 seasons into the IPL, the viewership for the auction continues to grow. The 2024 preseason mini auction was the most watched edition in history, with nearly 23 million in domestic viewership alone. And of course, all that means nothing without broadcasting rights. And this is the main cog of the IPL business model. Most leagues start by making money from tickets, but the IPL was lucky enough to start right at the point when TV rights and even online streaming were completely taken over. And Modi thought about rights in a very different way than other places as well. He actually gave the IPL rights up fairly cheap in overseas market, trying to build extra business in his brand. In the UK, he broadcast the league live on YouTube for free. And that was at a time when most cricket administrators weren't actually sure what that global video platform was. The BCCI auctions broadcasting rights for the IPL in 5-year cycles. The 2023 to 2027 saw rights being sold for a total, including digital rights, of $6.2 billion. Thrice the amount earned in the previous cycle. The BCCI retains 50% of those funds, and the rest is distributed amongst the franchisees. And it's not really a surprise the broadcast value has grown so much. In 2008, the inaugural season, there were 8 teams and 59 matches. In 2024, there are 10 teams and 74 matches. And this number is supposed to go up to 94 by 2027. And in truth, if Lalit Modi was still around, we might have double or triple that amount of games already. And for the 2020 season, the BCCI claimed a cumulative 383 billion minutes watched across TV and digital platforms in India. And this is why the franchise model makes so much more than international cricket. Even if the Indian games still get massive audiences, and sometimes they get a lot more than IPL matches as well, you can just never play as many. The IPL could play 4 matches on a weekend. And the other important thing about the league is that for 2 months, you know every time you turn on the TV at night in prime time, there is a game on. The league structure won't guarantee more eyes than internationals per game, but it is consistent and has way more content. In the old free-to-air TV market, internationals actually made more sense. In a streaming and cable world, the league is king. And one of the first big changes that everyone noticed in cricket from the IPL was the sponsored in-game commentary. If you are old enough, you'll remember a time when a 6 was just called a 6 and not a maximum. And remember, that wasn't just a maximum, it was a DLF maximum back in season 1. There have always been sponsored awards in cricket, but the IPL is much more about the innovation. How many different sponsors can they get involved? Sponsored boundaries, sponsored strategic timeouts, and sponsors for umpires. Every single element of the game is seen as an asset because every brand wants a piece of the IPL. A catch was a Citibank moment of success. And all of that is much more normal in cricket now. But cricket wasn't monetized like this before. And of course, each team has its own set of sponsors as well. The Mumbai Indians have a total of 26 brands this season, 11 international and 15 domestic. These include 10 on their playing kit alone. The Tata Group are the title sponsor of the IPL for the next 5 years. That company renewed its association with the IPL until 2028 for a value of 2,500 crore, which is about $300 million US. That is, you're going to be shocked to hear, the highest sponsorship deal ever in the IPL. But it's not just what the IPL has done for itself. What about for the external industries? For instance, fantasy cricket. They did exist in some formats before the IPL, but Dream 11 is now one of the biggest cricket products in the world, and the IPL is really how they grew, with of course that it slightly gets around a loophole that it isn't normal gambling. And it's not just them, because My 11 Circle is now an associate partner of the tournament itself, and fantasy sports revenue is projected for an incredible 20 to 35% growth compared to last season, reaching over $500 million in 2024. And the BCCI actually found another way to make money, of course, by just opening another league, the Women's Premier League. Better late than never, you may say. But the WPL was launched in 2023, and 2 seasons in, it is already the biggest women's franchise league out there. And if not already, it is probably well on its way to being the biggest league for women in any sport in the world. And many big sponsors from the IPL have secured rights to the WPL as well. Though it's obviously not making anywhere near the kind of money that the IPL is. With the number of matches going up next season and a 6th team being added to the roster, revenue generation is expected to improve significantly in the 3rd season of the competition. But the interesting thing about the IPL is that women were always involved from the start. Almost all cricket beforehand had been middle-aged and above men making a product for themselves. When the IPL was formed, they were conscious about wanting women to come to the grounds and watch on TV. It sounds weird now to say that appealing to 100% of the demographic rather than 50% of the demographic was smart. But the thing is, it was, because cricket hadn't even thought about women wanting to come to the grounds before that. The success of the IPL has been so exponential that the IPL decided to spread its wings further into other leagues as well. The Kolkata Knight Riders was the first to do that when they bought the Caribbean Premier League side Trinidad and Tobago Red Steel, and they renamed it the Trimbago Knight Riders. That was in 2015, and it wasn't a trend that was taken up immediately, but a few years later, every IPL owner is looking at buying other franchises. And it was in 2022 when things really went big with the announcement of the SA20. All 6 franchises are extensions of the IPL franchises, and the league itself is more or less an arm of the IPL. The ILT20 and the MLC in the USA are 2 other competitions that have a heavy IPL presence as well, further widening the league's influence around the world of cricket. And to be honest, when you really think about it, all these other leagues are really directly or indirectly spin-offs of the IPL. The Big Bash changed after the IPL became successful and went to become a city-based franchise league. The 100 is exactly the same. The boards were making money before, but the IPL was building skyscrapers, and so everyone wanted that. And much of cricket's current problems are not from the IPL, but are from the many copycat leagues that are trying to build their version of paradise, but in a media market like 1/1,000,000th the size. Everyone wants their own grand domestic league. But let's be honest, the IPL is a global league. It was inspired by the NBA and Premier League football. The IPL looked globally in a way cricket never had before. Not just by buying teams, but looking at marketing to non-resident Indians. The Rajasthan Royals set themselves up as the English IPL franchise, and even point god Chris Paul owns a share of them. Cricket was always a global game that looked local. The IPL has exploded that, and a lot of what the IPL done is purely marketing the sport of cricket. When I visited Wankhede in 2012 to watch the Mumbai Indians, there was a 20-foot high picture of Aiden Blizzard, a Victorian cricketer that almost no one in his home state would have been able to recognise. A test match, at the same time, I went to test matches all around the world, and in almost any city, you could barely tell a game was actually going to be played. The IPL let everyone everywhere know that this big thing was happening, and a lot of it is performative. But cricket's biggest problem has always been celebrating and promoting itself. It preferred to set up a lemonade stand in a side alley and hope that people came through by word of mouth. For all the problems that the IPL has always had, it is an explosion of love for the game of cricket. And of course, it was always going to be harder for the older generations to understand it, what with the countdown, Spanish horns, and the team theme songs. But cricket was being celebrated, even if it was loudly. And the other big business change when it comes to the IPL is that they have created an environment where international cricketers are considering being freelancers as a serious option. With how franchise cricket is right now, a player can stand to earn more money than they do as contracted players for any given country, while often playing a lot less cricket. Without the IPL, the idea of freelance cricketers would not really have made all that much sense. And the West Indies greats like Chris Gayle, Dwayne Bravo, Sunil Narine are the ones who really started this movement. But it took Trent Boult giving up his New Zealand contract in 2022 for the conversation to really enter the mainstream. He was a key figure of a team that had won the inaugural World Test Championship and finished runner-up in 3 limited overs World Cups, saying that he didn't want a full-time position with his nation so he could spend more time with his young family and make himself available for more franchise leagues. Many other players have opted out of Test cricket since then, and it's clear that we are going towards that kind of a future. However, players like Boult will probably not even be freelance in the future. They will sign multi-league contracts to one owner. So instead of working for a board, their main employer will be IPL owners. And one of the reasons that players of Trent Boult's quality were underpaid for so many years in every market was the lack of competition for their skills. Now a Nepalese spinner can play in a Canada league and get paid good money. The IPL is what opened up that market. And not everything that they have done has been great, but most of it has been very impactful. I mean, I can't see the ECB running to do a deal with Saudi Arabia for a Desert 100, but so often in cricket, when the IPL even hints at doing something, the rest of cricket try and rush over there as well. And in January 2008, the IPL was nothing more than a concept. But even the most optimistic person would have struggled to believe that the IPL would be this big or influential as it currently is. It is no longer simply a franchise league. At the moment, it is what the business world calls a decacorn, a privately held company with a valuation exceeding $10 billion. The word decacorn was coined in 2013. The IPL has changed cricket business so much that we had to create new words to describe it.